It's just about the diversity and stuff.
So it's funny because what's funny is I've never heard of this Charlie Kirk guy until obviously his death.
Rest in peace, by the way. No one deserves to be shot for talking.
So for me, it's like
I knew about him though. I've watched his videos.
I didn't know anything about him.
I knew about him, yeah.
And certain things that he's saying are wild. I agree. But then there's certain other things that he's saying and I can't disagree. Mainly because maybe they're facts, they're stats. But I feel like people are like getting highly offended by certain things that he's saying. But again, like I believe in certain things that he's saying and I agree with certain things that he's saying because in regards to like the black community, like we was talking to this guy at the college and he was saying like black on black crime is the highest in like black deaths are the highest from black people, which I agree. And he's like, you know, you should kind of deal with that within the black community, which I agree. I think in the black community, we do need to work on how we're treating each other. Naturally, I think we're the biggest race that are on this crabs in a bucket thing. We're the biggest race that's willing to cut each other down as quick as possible. I see it. So what he's saying is the truth. And we fall into that category and we fall into that stereotype every time. And I can't help but agree with it. We, as a black community, we actually do need to focus on what we can do to better the community and ourselves. So when he's saying certain things, I'm like, damn, that's harsh. But the facts and the stats are there, and he's actually just saying the facts and the stats of the situation. What he then says after, maybe some opinions and some racial comments or whatever, okay, fair enough. But I feel like there is a lot that the black community need to do because we are putting ourselves in situations where we don't like what we're hearing, but it's the truth.
Do you think you just don't like who you're hearing it from?
I think so.
Because if that was Oprah...
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's what I'm saying, how he's saying it, and then maybe certain things that he's saying after.
If you don't like the person, you don't like anything they say.
Yeah, it's true.
I think there is more to unpack with that whole, black on black violence thing, though. There is a lot more to it.
And I feel like we have been set up, but we're following a trend and we're stuck in this cycle. And I don't think we're the ones that put us in this cycle, but we are the ones that we can get us out of this cycle. But going back to, the community and the black on black crime and even white on white crime, like you said, and I do agree with that, you're more likely to kill someone that is black when, especially in America, when you're living in communities of just black people.
Yeah, of course. You'll kill who's near you.
Yeah, it's your environment is black people. So the chances are gonna be higher naturally.
Yeah. And you're poorer.
Yeah.
So you've got the poverty and the fact that you're all with each other.
But what I find really interesting is when he was talking about the nurse. I don't know. You said he was talking about the nurses, but I heard him talking about the pilot stuff.
No, pilots. I said pilots.
So he was talking about saying that if he saw a black pilot, he would have to laugh. He would question their kind of skill level.
And he did to the doctor as well. He said a doctor.
He would question their capacity and skill level, to do their job based on the fact that they're black.
Yeah, so what he was saying was...
Which is kind of racist, but then when he breaks it down, he's saying because of diversity, diversity, equity and inclusion,
like the quota, the diversity quota, isn't it?
Yeah, DEI or whatever. Yeah. He's saying that they've lowered the bar to allow more black people and women into it. And what he said was that what they've done is, you can say lower the bar, but maybe they've kept the bar the same. But what they've done is if there was 5 black guys and 5 white guys, yeah, based on the fact that they need to hit 50%, yeah, black guys and white guys, then the chances of, if they've already hired 7 white guys, they're gonna hire all 5 black guys instead of balancing, do you know what I mean? To balance the equation up kind of thing. So it's like, maybe, but personally, I always say as a black person, sometimes that stuff actually is beneficial for us, and we can make that stuff work for us. But again, we're given an opportunity. But at the same time, I feel like there's been times where we've been against, like, it's like if they're black, just say no.
Well, Jordan Peterson said something, and it made a lot of sense one time. They were asking him about jobs because I think 95% of engineers, it was something in the 90% of engineers or mechanical, something was all men. And they said, what do you think about hiring if it was 50% in an engineering company? He goes, well, the standard would lower.
Yeah.
He goes, just mathematically, there's only 5% of engineers are women.
Yeah.
So if you've got a job that requires 100 jobs, there's 95 men and 5 women that are engineers. So now if you start taking out and hire all the women and take out the men, you're going to be hiring women that are not as qualified.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So you can't just do 50-50 on stuff.
No.
And I do believe in a meritocracy. And I know a lot of people, especially in America, and a lot of the sort of the right-wing white Americans are like, you should be based on your character and like how good you are at a job, which is true.
Yes.
But unfortunately, a lot of my white brothers and sisters in America seem to forget history.
Yeah.
Like, black people have always been talented, and but they were held away from doing it. That's why they weren't allowed to play in baseball.
Yeah.
Before Jackie Robinson.
Yeah.
And even though he was good, he wasn't given a fair chance.
Yeah.
They didn't want him to play. And in basketball.
Yeah.
So you had segregation. So it's not just a matter of, although it's a lovely thing to say that, you know, people should be hired on their merit. And I agree on that. But it's like what we were talking about before. They need to be given an equal
playing
opportunity.
field, yeah, and it's not.
And it's not.
So there's
if everything's
one,
equal, yes.
Yeah. There's one part of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just one part of a bigger picture.
I do agree though. People should be hired on how good they are.
I do.
But when they were
agree.
doing studying in the 60s in America and there was still segregation,
Yeah.
the black kids would get textbooks that were older, 3-4 years. They'd get the hand-me-down textbooks,
Yeah.
where the white kids would get the more up-to-date education. So they're already not on an equal playing field.
Yeah.
But if they're on an equal playing field, they said people wouldn't go in the NBA. As soon as black people got allowed to play in the NBA,
it was a madness.
on an equal playing field, look how they excelled.
It's gone from what, like 5% to 75% black.
And that's not to do with diversity quota.
Yeah.
That's just they picked the best athletes.
And even in that video, he actually spoke about the NBA, and he was saying that, do you think that if we had to draft 50% of the NBA players as white, would the level drop?
Of course it would.
And the guy was arguing, saying no. But I agree,
I think
it would drop.
I think that guy who said no was just doubling down because he knows now he kind of got his bluff called.
But it's true, the level would drop.
Yeah, the thing is, sometimes people can use stats and they make a good point, but their way of explaining it and their opinion and how they think to get away from that is not right. So yes, he's right. Black people need to work on their unity, because it's usually quite well generalized. And again, we've talked about this before. Calling people black is a big thing. There's a big difference between black American, black Nigerian, black Sudanese, black British. But when they say black people, they're usually talking about African Americans or black people in Britain. But yes, there is a situation where our black brothers and sisters in this country, they are crabs in a bucket. It's generally the stereotype. There is a problem with it, but he has to look at, it's not just, okay, that's the problem. There's a lot more to that. There's a lot more regarding to how the system is put in place and how you're placing people to try and fight for a little bit of nothing and fighting over the crumbs.
But we're almost conditioned to do that.
Yeah, of course we are.
And that's why we're like that with each other. But we have to get out of that.
But the black people are the only groups like that people always say, for example, in the criminal world, it's like black people were the only people that never organised crime. They were always gangs. You might have one or two big time guys that there were in New York and that, but you had the syndicate, the mafia, and all this, and the Greek mafia, and the Russian mafia. They're all organised. They said they could never get that with black people because there was too much infighting.
100%. It's a shame.
And black people have not the only people that have been enslaved. Do you know what I mean? And black people are not the only people that have been held down.
No.
And black people are not Native Americans got slaughtered.
Yeah.
But they seem to have a bit more unity. Do you know what I mean? And they've been slaughtered, and they've all been put in reservations to live together. Do you know what I mean? But they don't necessarily, well, they might have it because we don't really know much about them as such to that level, but they don't really have the same problems. You know, Indians have been used against each other a lot by the British. They got taken over. They were slaves for a long time. White people were slaves. The word Slavic means slave, doesn't it? Like all that Slavic region. It comes from the word comes from Slavic. Irish people were slaves. Do you know what I mean? A lot of people were slaves and held down. Black people have had it bad, don't get me wrong. Like anyone who has studied anything to do with history, especially in America, yeah, black people have had it extremely hard. But, and I'm not the kind of person who says, well, it's been a while now, just get over it. No, not at all. But certainly I think I've always said, and we made a video about this, black people lack leadership. That's the problem. They lack positive role models that the youth recognise as role models. There are black people doing great things in politics and in business and whatever, but the general youth and black community does not look at those people as role models. They would rather look at a rapper or a sportsman. Do you know what I mean? And it's unfortunate. You know, you're getting guys now like we were talking about before, like Dean Forbes, the tech guy who's doing stuff. But again, he's one guy. And although he's done great things in tech, and I think he was talking about running for the mayor of London at one point. At some point, it's in one of his goals. He's obviously a very highly driven guy. He was an athlete before. He played football at a decent level. I think he played for his country. I think he got a game for Guyana as well. With Guyanese, and I think he was with Rio Ferdinand and those guys in the academies or something like that. But he was a very high level footballer. Didn't quite make pro here. So he's obviously just a very a driven man who's good at business. But we don't actually know anything about him. No. We don't know his views on family. We don't know his views on religion. We don't know his views on immigration or anything like that. We just know that he's successful and he's got money, but that doesn't necessarily make him a role model. It makes him a role model with regards to, that you can do well in business and you don't have to be a drug dealer and you don't have to be a sports and entertainment to make really good money. But as a man, we don't know anything about him yet. And that's no knock on him. I'm just saying we don't know yet. We have to see more of his personality and how he believes in social issues and stuff. For all you know, he could say, I don't believe in anyone paying tax. I shouldn't pay any tax for my money, and the rich and the poor should just fend for themselves. We don't know what he thinks, But I think it's a lack of leadership, unfortunately. And to be honest, there's other places, there's other people that don't have leadership either. The same thing's happening in India. Like Sikhs in India, and I've always said this, and I know I get pushback from Sikhs on this. Sikhs don't have leadership. Sikhs want their own. There's a lot of Sikhs that want their own country, because you've got the Hindus who've got India, the Muslims who've got Pakistan. The Sikhs never had anything. They got given Punjab, and they cut it in half between India and Pakistan. They don't have their own. They don't have their own land, and part of that, I believe, was because they were dangerous. Because they were the warrior class and they were the ones in the armies. So to keep them from being too strong, they kind of split them into two countries and kept them, do you know what I mean? They kind of kept them not in their own country. But there's lots of Sikhs saying, they want their own country. They want their country, their nation, because the Sri Lankans have got theirs, Bengalis have got theirs, India's got theirs, Pakistanis have got theirs, and the Sikhs haven't got one. The problem with that is, unfortunately, Sikhs don't have leadership. They don't have good leadership. They wouldn't know what to do. There'd be no one to run it.
But that's because they've been conditioned in a certain way and they've been broken
Sikhs,
and split.
100%. And Sikhs,
so it's the same, isn't it?
Sikhs are loyal attack dogs for the government. They're loyal attack dogs. They fight. I mean, India treats them terribly. India treats Sikhs terribly. They did a genocide on them back in the 1980s. There was a genocide on them. But they're so conditioned that the first thing that happens, India had a problem with China back in the 60s. They send the Sikhs in to get killed. Do you know what I mean? India had a problem with Pakistan. They'll send the Sikhs in. So these Sikhs will fight because they're so conditioned to just be loyal soldiers.
And that's the thing.
It's the same thing with them. They don't have leadership. And black British and black Americans, they just don't have the leadership. And when someone does come along as leadership, they tear them down.
But I was literally about to say that.
They tear them down. They don't accept leadership.
So they don't even get an opportunity to start bringing others up.
No, because
everyone
they break them down. Yeah. Everyone's just fending for themselves.
So then you just end up kind of just getting to a level on your own, and you kind of almost are trying to part away from your own people.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah, and it's almost like an unwritten thing that to be really successful, you've got to move away from black people.
Yep.
So if you're black and you're a sportsman, you want to start hanging around white people.
Yeah.
You want to start hanging around different circles, which I get to an extent of you want to broaden your horizons.
Yeah,
I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. If you've just been raised in the ends and you don't know how to talk properly, you don't know how to communicate properly, all you know is just around the ends. I get it, because even sports and entertainment guys, they're like, now I'm trying to go Paris and I'm trying to go to the fashion show. And that's good. And that's not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong. That's that crabs in a bucket mentality.
Yeah.
If you think that's wrong, that's crabs in a bucket. Why are you stopping someone from going and hanging around in different environments? Because then it'll be, oh, you think you're too good for us now.
Yeah.
You think you're bougie.
Yeah.
No. It works both ways though. But the people, it's such a shame that for young black men or black women, it's almost like for you to be successful, you've got to move away from black people. And that's disheartening, and it's really unfortunate, because you would think that they would say, stay with your role models and people, and they will help, and your community will help build you. But the narrative is almost for a black man to be successful, he needs to move away from the hood and other black people, and to be truly successful if he wants to be a lawyer or wants to be an accountant. I know there's black-owned businesses, and I know black firms do really well, and I'm not saying that it never works, but I'm saying the general narrative seems to be that if you really want to be truly successful on a real money, I'm not talking about being hood rich or having a successful business, but if you really want to be on that Bezos and all that level, you've got to move away from other black people and start hanging around with rich white dudes, which has some truth to it, because you just hang around with richer people, and there's more richer white people in that country than there are rich black people. That's a thing. Yeah. But the narrative that you have to move away from your own people is sad.
Yeah, it is.
It's just sad. It's disheartening. It's not a nice narrative. But unfortunately, that's how it is, because like I say, the narrative is that crabs in a bucket. They're going to hold you down, and it's unfortunate that people think like that. It's unfortunate that there is some truth to it, and it's unfortunate that people can't shake it, even if they're not. So guys like Charlie Kirk and whatever, yes, I do believe some of what they say is wildly racist, and they can use stats to prove everything, because you can use stats to prove anything in your life. But even guys like Donald Trump and whatever, they can be racist, but sometimes anyone will say something that's true, right? You know what I mean?
I think so.
Cool.